simply really difficult. There's a really well-known or world-famous director that caught wind of my project, and he said he heard that I was working with children and animals, and these are like very wrong things to do for a first feature film. So he laughed and said, "Good luck."
Who's the director?
I don't want to say, but he's very big.
All right.
Everybody here would know him.
So what was the inspiration for this film? You know, in terms of the rural setting, the sort of organizing around the absence of the mother?
I think I really wanted to depict and focus on the relationship between my father, myself, and my brother. I think it all started with the image of the lake at the very end. It stayed. It was the inspiration, I think, where it all sort of started was the sort of painting that I saw. And I think as immigrants, oftentimes when you first come over, you want to take up as little physical space as possible. You feel much smaller than where you come from, and I just felt like your actual voice, maybe if you raise it up, that's another way to sort of express and take up space in some ways, and sort of this idea manifested into a 3-chapter structure, very much inspired by Moonlight by Barry Jenkins. And the experience is different for everybody, and I wanted to portray it in as many different sort of colors and ways as possible. Of course, in our movie, through 3 different generations in a family.
Did you grow up in rural Canada?
I first started there, and then I went to the suburbs in the suburbs of Vancouver. So that's where I grew up.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare to see sort of an Asian immigrant story in a rural setting. I mean, Minari is sort of the most prominent. But can you talk about sort of why you focused on that rural setting?
I suppose because when my family first got to Canada, it was in the prairie lands, and then shortly after, when I was really a baby, we went to suburbs, which was close to prairie lands, but didn't really intersect. I think it was this idea of where Vancouver, there's a lot of prairie lands that meet the forest, and once I settled on the idea of dogs, I think there were news in Saskatchewan, I believe, where there were a wild dog problem, where they were attacking livestock and destroying crops, so that was an issue, and that was part of the inspiration that I took to bring into this film. So I think to set it into area that I'm familiar with, which is British Columbia, Vancouver, so then to just set it in the Vancouver prairie lands made sense to me.
And I thought the performances were excellent. In terms of the casting, Natch, maybe you can talk about this as well. How did you cast these actors? Were they sort of first-time actors?
Sane, who plays Hannah, the youngest daughter, definitely was first-time acting ever, and she was incredible. Casting for this one was interesting. We worked with our casting team in Vancouver and put out a nationwide search in Canada, because I think the family members specifically had a lot of requirements. They need to be fluent in Korean. They need to be, have the acting chops. And our search didn't turn up too many folks, and Jerome knows the Korean community in Canada very well. So we put out an open casting call. The story of how we came across Sane was interesting. We put out a call for the role of dad, and we had one person submit who ultimately did not get the role, but as part of his submission, he didn't have a proper headshot, but he put forward a family photo. So Jerome was like, "Oh, you didn't get the role, but I see that you have a daughter. Would she be interested in it?" And again, never acted before. She sent in her Taekwondo rehearsal video, and then
she didn't know how to audition.
No,
she didn't have a headshot, so she's like, "Here's a Taekwondo video."
Yeah, so we had to kind of go through all these other channels and just a lot of gut instinct, and we also had a team in Korea who helped us with the outreach there as well, which is how we came across the father and the son character. Yeah, but a lot of it was very, a lot of street casting, grassroots.
They were great.